Before water came in plastic, before it was piped, filtered, and sold by the gallon, it had to be found. Not imagined or theorized, but found. And for thousands of years, the most reliable place to find it was where it came up out of the ground on its own. A spring. In ancient Rome, engineers built 11 major aqueduct systems to collect spring water and deliver it drop by drop into a city that grew to over 1 million people. But the oldest documented human use of spring water predates Rome by thousands of years. Archaeological evidence from the Upper Paleolithic period around 20,000 years ago shows early hominid groups in East Africa and the Levant orienting seasonal migrations around dependable springs. One of the most enduring examples is the Ain el-Satan spring near Jericho. It supported permanent settlements for over 10,000 years, making it one of the world's oldest continually inhabited cities. A spring forms when underground water, collected in porous rock or gravel beds known as aquifers, rises naturally to the surface due to hydrostatic pressure or geological fractures. These formations can vary dramatically in size and structure. Some are small seeps that barely moisten the soil, while others are karst systems, limestone networks that discharge water in massive volumes. The largest known spring in the United States, Big Spring in Missouri, discharges over 280 million gallons. That's 1.06 billion liters per day, moving water from deep within the Ozark Plateau at temperatures around 58 degrees Fahrenheit, 14.4 degrees Celsius, all year round. In ancient China, sacred springs like those at Mount Hung, they were revered not only as water sources, but as spiritual sites. The Greeks built shrines near springheads, often attributing them to gods or nymphs. In Norse mythology, springs like Mimi's Brunner held the waters of wisdom. The association between clarity of water and clarity of thought has echoed across nearly every culture that's settled near one. But as time moves forward and urban populations exploded, springs took a different role. By the mid-19th century in the United States, rivers and shallow wells near growing cities, they became unsafe due to industrial pollution or poor sanitation. Outbreaks of cholera, typhoid, and dysentery pushed people towards cleaner sources. Springs, especially those emerging from deep aquifers, offered water with natural filtration and lower bacterial risk. This purity gave rise to the water cure movement, where resorts in towns like Saratoga Springs, New York, and Hot Springs, Arkansas, promised both health and hospitality. And then came the bottle. The first commercial bottling of spring water in America occurred in 1767 at Jackson Spring in Boston. Bottled in glass and sold locally, it was a novelty. By the late 1800s, larger operations like Poland Spring in Maine were bottling and shipping water in ceramic crocks, claiming benefits for digestion, complexion, and nervous disorders. By 1900, spring water bottling was a documented industry with dozens of regional suppliers. In 1908, the U.S. Geological Survey published a full national catalog of mineral springs and their characteristics. That included flow rate, mineral content, and temperature profiles. Spring water, it's not uniform. Its contents depend on the geology it passes through. If the aquifer runs through limestone, calcium and magnesium are quite common. Granite or basalt can contribute silica or iron. These minerals define not just the flavor, but the marketing. Hard versus soft water, or high TDS, total dissolved solids ratings that indicate mineral richness. Some springs are so mineral dense, like those in Vichy, France, that their waters are effervescent without added carbonation. And the temperature, it tells a story too. Warm or hot springs are typically heated by geothermal activity, heat from the Earth's crust, while cold springs, such as those in the Alps near Evian, they emerge from snowmelt filtration and maintain a steady 51 degrees Fahrenheit, 10.5 degrees Celsius, all year long. Each has its own microbial and mineral signature. Today, for a bottled water to be labeled spring water in the United States, it must meet strict legal definition under the FDA's Code of Federal Regulations. The water must come from an underground formation and flow naturally to the surface, or be collected through a borehole that taps the same underground source. It cannot be chemically altered beyond filtration for sediment and must retain its original mineral composition. That's what separates it from purified water, which often comes from municipal sources like tap water and is processed by reverse osmosis or distillation. And so we've come full circle. A spring doesn't require promotion. It doesn't need a logo or a marketing team. It just rises clear, steady, unassuming from rock and time. If you've ever tasted real spring water from the source, you remember. The cold cuts your teeth. The iron touches your tongue. The air smells faintly of stone and moss. It doesn't feel like a drink. It feels like something older than you, giving you permission to hold it for a brief moment. Some scientists once speculated the water might retain a kind of memory, a trace of what's passed through. That theory remains disputed in laboratories. But standing at the edge of a spring with glacial runoff or ancient aquifer beneath your feet, it's easy to understand why that idea persists. Because sometimes you don't have to prove something for it to feel real. These are Interesting Things with JC.